Hey there, welcome back. I've got something important to run by you real quick. Have you noticed your grocery costs creeping higher lately? Maybe some of your go-to items, like eggs or veggies, have suddenly become noticeably more expensive? Well, starting August 1st, that upward trend could take a serious leap. President Trump just announced a brand new 30% tariff on all imports coming in from Mexico and the European Union. That covers a wide range, from fresh produce to electronics to medical gear. This isn't just some wonky trade policy for economists to argue over. It could directly affect your daily expenses, from your grocery cart to a hospital visit or even shopping for a new laptop. And here's something most folks haven't heard yet. Tomatoes, yes, tomatoes, could soon cost 10% more, thanks to a trade deal that quietly expired after nearly 30 years. This isn't just politics. It's about your dinner plans, your next clinic visit, or your weekend grocery run. Stick with me, because we're going to break this all down. What the new tariffs mean for you, how they could affect your wallet, and whether the long-term goal is really worth the short-term cost. And real quick, what's one thing you've seen get noticeably more expensive this year that really shocked you? Let me know in the comments. I read every single one. Also, if you find this breakdown useful, be sure to hit subscribe so you don't miss out on important updates like this one. So what's really going on here? President Trump's latest move imposes a 30% tariff on imports from Mexico and the EU, two of America's most important trade partners. That's a pretty big jump. To put it into context, this isn't some minor tweak. It could end up being one of the biggest shifts in American trade policy since the 1930s. And it matters because a massive chunk of what we use in the US, from avocados to computer chips, comes from these two regions. This move isn't just sending a message, it's going to impact your daily life. Let's start with groceries, because that's something we all feel right away. Last year alone, the US imported over $46 billion worth of food and agricultural goods from Mexico. That's all the fresh fruits and vegetables on your store shelf. Just avocados, more than $3 billion worth. But tomatoes, that's where we're already seeing changes. A long-standing deal that kept tomato prices stable for decades just expired. And now, on top of the new 30% tariff, there's also a 21% duty that's already being enforced. What does that mean for you? Salsa, pasta, burgers, pizza? Pretty much anything with tomatoes is about to cost more. And this isn't just happening at gourmet stores. It's hitting everyday supermarkets. Distributors are already warning they can't afford to absorb the cost increases. So what happens? They pass it on to us. Restaurant owners are feeling the heat too. One owner in Southern California says she might only last another 3 months. If she raises prices, customers stop coming in. But if she doesn't, she loses money on every dish. Now, let's look at something that doesn't usually make headlines. Medical equipment. You wouldn't think trade policy would impact your hospital bill, but it does. The U.S. imports around $16 billion worth of medical supplies from the EU each year. Everything from surgical instruments to imaging machines. When those prices increase, it affects more than just hospitals. It hits insurance premiums, deductibles, and copays. You won't see a line on your bill that says tariff, but trust me, it's in there. You will end up paying more. Let's switch gears to electronics. After moving away from Chinese manufacturing, the U.S. leaned heavily on Mexico for things like laptops, routers, and smart home gear. In 2024 alone, we imported nearly $50 billion in computers and another $20 billion in electrical parts from Mexico. So if you're thinking about upgrading your tech, you might want to do it before the new tariff takes effect, because prices are likely to spike. Now let's talk about something else close to home: alcohol. Whether it's European wine or Mexican tequila, the U.S. imported over $11 billion in alcoholic beverages from each of those regions last year. And yep, those prices are going up too. Oddly enough, some American alcohol producers are nervous. Why? Because if the EU retaliates as expected, American-made liquor could be hit with counter tariffs. That means U.S. whiskey, wine, and beer could face reduced demand overseas, which could result in job losses right here at home. What about cars? Interestingly, vehicles aren't part of this new round of tariffs. Trump clarified that this 30% hike is separate from the existing tariffs already placed on sectors like European cars, which can already face duties up to 27.5%. So while this update won't raise car prices immediately, those costs are already built in under current rules. So what's the reason behind all of this? From the Trump administration's point of view, these tariffs are meant to level the playing field. They argue that foreign companies are selling products in the U.S. at below-market rates, undercutting American businesses. The tariff, they claim, is a tool to demand fairer trade terms. There's also a border element here. Trump has criticized Mexico for not doing enough to stop fentanyl trafficking and illegal immigration. So the tariffs are also meant as leverage, not just economic retaliation. Even though Mexico has deployed troops and extradited cartel leaders, they're still being targeted. Here's the catch. This isn't a one-way street. Other nations are already preparing to hit back. The EU has signaled plans for $21 billion in retaliatory tariffs. That could impact American industries across the board, from agriculture and tech to intellectual property. So we're not just looking at higher prices. We're also staring down potential trade disputes and lost export opportunities for U.S. companies. Countries like France, Italy, and even Trump's traditional allies in Europe have voiced strong opposition. And back here at home, it's not all applause either. Several Republican senators, especially from farming states, are sounding the alarm. One senator from Iowa put it plainly: trade wars hurt our farmers. And he's right. Let's take a moment to zoom out. With these new tariffs in place, the average U.S. tariff rate could hit around 19 cents, the highest it's been since the 1930s. Back then, those tariffs made the Great Depression worse, according to many economists. Now, I'm not saying we're headed for that level of crisis, but it's a reminder that tariffs aren't free and their impact isn't invisible. At the end of the day, we all end up paying for them. There's a hidden cost a lot of people don't talk about. Bringing in imported goods isn't just about what's inside the box. It supports a whole ecosystem: shipping, storage, customs, trucking, logistics, and more. When imports decline, those industries take a hit. That means fewer jobs, fewer contracts, and less economic activity right here in the U.S. And here's something that might surprise you. While tariffs are meant to bring jobs back home, most economists agree that the number of jobs lost in import-heavy industries often outweighs the number gained by reshoring production. Why? Because supply chains are incredibly complex. You can't just snap your fingers and bring production back to the U.S. without major delays, investments, and higher costs. So where does that leave us? We're witnessing a major gamble in how America handles global trade. Whether it works out long-term is something we'll be debating for years. But in the short term, we know one thing: prices are going up on groceries, electronics, and even basic healthcare services. So, what can you do? Honestly, the best place to start is with awareness. Pay attention to changes in your receipts, your monthly bills, and what you're buying. Even small adjustments, like choosing local produce or holding off on big-ticket purchases, can help soften the blow.